Great. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining. We're going to slowly kick things off here. So before we get started today, just before we begin, a couple of housekeeping notes. So as always, today's session will be recorded. So if you do miss anything, you'll be able to go back and watch it on YouTube. We'll get up that recording in a couple of days, and we'll also email it out to everyone that's registered. So we'll get it to your inbox as well within a couple of days too. So today we're going to start our masterclass with a few questions from me to the Turno team, and then we'll have the opportunity to turn it over to you, the audience, to ask your questions. So feel free to start using the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen to, start giving us those questions now, ready for the end of the session. You can also use the upvote button to make sure that we prioritize those questions that are hot topics. Please do use the Q&A function at the bottom for that. So welcome all, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Miles. I'm the head of marketing at Hospitable. For those who don't know what Hospitable does, Hospitable gives short-term rental hosts their valuable time back. Founded in 2016, we make short-term hosting trivial for over 10,700 hosts with tools such as AI-powered automated messaging, automated task scheduling for your team, a synchronized calendar to prevent double bookings across Airbnb, Vrbo, Booking.com, and your direct booking website, and a centralized inbox to respond to all your guests across different channels in one place. You can find out more about us at hospitable.com. That's enough. That's about Hospitable. That's kind of our usual spiel at the start. But for today's masterclass, we're joined by Mike O'Connell, Head of Partnerships, and Stephan Bajaio, Chief Marketing Officer at Turno. Turno is a great partner of ours. If you don't already know, Hospitable customers can actually get a Turno subscription for free by connecting their accounts. We'll get to that in a bit more detail very soon. But Mike, Stephan, thank you very much for joining us. Maybe we can kick things off with a little introduction from both of you. To let us know about yourselves and maybe a little bit about Turno as well.
Yeah, so my name's Mike. I am the director, head of partnerships here at Turno. Been with the company for a few years now. Really excited to kick things off. I'm joined with Stephan, so I'll let him do a quick little intro. And, I feel like the marketing guy should give us an overview of what the company does, because I always have to do it and I want to break.
Oh, wow. Okay. So here's how Mike and I are going to be doing this today. Obviously, it's going to be off the cuff. I'm going to look translucent, as you guys can tell. New office, just moved in and have boxes all around me. And clearly my lighting system isn't set up properly. So if you can't see me, it's not an illusion. It's just that I'm translucent and this room is incredibly white. I'm Stephan Bajaio. I am Chief Marketing Officer, as Miles said, at Turno. Former background, been with the company for about a year. Previous to that, I'd say my intersection with real estate would have been having my company I helped found for 15 years, bought by WeWork. We were the ones who kind of get ourselves out of WeWork and survive. So that was an interesting story, and lots of those, but we'll skip those today. But lots of great stories there. Really excited to be a part of Turno for the last year. I didn't know much about vacation rental space and short-term rental space, frankly, when I came on board. But I got kind of a baptism by fire. At first, I said, well, really, I'm joining a company that does software for cleaning. That's probably pretty unsexy. And at first I thought it was, until I realized, and this is how I'll get to what we do, that you can have the nicest vacation rental in the world. You can have the most lucrative one. You could have the one that everyone wants to book. But if you can't do a turnover, you have no business. So cleaning becomes a fundamental part of ensuring that you actually have a business. Little did I know that, to the tune of people were even telling me on the phone, I get my mortgage and then I find my cleaner. And I said, no way, get out of here. You're just saying that because I work for the company that helps you find the cleaners and manage them through our software. And people said, no, like really, this is that important. I don't think you get it. So I got it pretty quick, meaning Turno actually is a software, both a SaaS and a marketplace for you to either use your own cleaners that are on your staff, if you have a staff of cleaners as part of your organizational process, or potentially need to find vacation rental cleaners specifically, because not all cleaners are the same, and we can talk about that later. and actually book them and use them and pay them directly through the platform, and a whole litany of other things that we'll talk about through automation process to ensure quality and a great service. We've been doing it formerly as Turnover B&B, came on board, we switched the name, Turno. Kind of easy to remember, but everyone calls us Turnover. It's a thing. I like to say you can't have the turnover without the turno, but I'm the marketing guy, so, you know, we'll go from there.
Hey, we can still Google you and find you, and that's the main thing, right?
Oh, definitely. That was my job because I'm kind of the SEO guy too. I built a platform that helps enterprise SEO companies or companies with enterprise SEO software. So I better have that.
Great, perfect. So yeah, thank you very much both for giving yourselves a little introduction. And yeah, let's get into some questions and tell us a bit more about Turno, I guess. And you know, you kind of talked there about you know, cleaners being kind of the first step after you know, sorting out a mortgage. You know, obviously that's because there's a lot of challenges when it comes to kind of recruiting a cleaning team. Can you talk to some of those common challenges that, you know, you guys see yourselves being in the industry, sorry, and some of the challenges that, you know, you're trying to solve for too?
Yeah, so I can jump in here. Holistically, I saw, you know, people saying they're coming in from all over the world. Mexico, I saw Hawaii, Rhode Island. So obviously every location, every market's going to be different, right? So that's the first thing that we recognize. Cleaning prices are going to be different. You know, if you're in a mountain resort area, you know, there might not be a plethora of cleaners. If you're in a major metro area, you might have a problem with the cleaner parking. Like I have an issue with, you know, these high-rise buildings in some of these major cities where, yeah, the cleaning fee should be $50, but to park there for, you know, an hour is $30, right? So there's a lot of challenges, like, you know, on a macro level when it comes to cleaning that we run into every single day with the volume that we're doing. So I guess it's like one of those things where there's holistic challenges, and then there's like market level challenges, and then there's even challenges when it comes to everyone's operation is different. So I saw that, you know, pop up here. We in Puerto Rico, yes, we have some marketplace cleaners in Puerto Rico. In fact, we have a lot of vacation rental management companies that use us just for scheduling. So one thing to kind of point out, like, and Stephan pointed this out, there's kind of two facets to our business. One is the scheduling and automation side, where you can use your existing team members. And then the other is our marketplace, where we match you up with vetted short-term rental cleaners, kind of facilitate the process, let you add checklists in, require them to take photos, track inventory of consumables, get as detailed as you really want, right? And you can do that with people that you're already working with, or people from our marketplace. And now the difference with this new partnership that we have with Hospitable is prior, you would have to pay a subscription fee to use your existing team, which, you know, can be a deterrent. It's an added cost. We recognize that. And now we've struck this deal with Hospitable, and everyone now can schedule their own people for free, pay them if you'd like through the platform. You don't have to. And then if you'd like, you can actually add, you know, backup cleaners from our marketplace. And, you know, everyone gets the idea what we're doing here. We want to grow our marketplace. We want to grow the product. We're all very transparent. We're trying to grow businesses here, just like you guys are. I feel like a lot of people on here are very entrepreneurial. If you're just sitting on, you know, one or two properties, you're probably either actively trying to acquire more, or you're thinking about it at some point. So we want to really grow with you guys. And yeah, I don't know if I answered the question well enough there. I could kind of sidetrack.
I think
there's a lot of
Mike.
challenges.
I think you really did, but like I think I'll break it down into some. I want to hit some main points here, and then also make sure that it's clear to everyone kind of how that all works. And I don't mean that in the context of let's just think about Turno, right? You hit the nail on the head regarding entrepreneurship, right? We believe at Turno that we're here to grow. We're not here to grow just ourselves. We're here to grow entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs, in our case, happen to sit on both sides of the coin. They're both the demand side, which is vacation hosts, short-term rental hosts, and there are cleaners. So cannot tell you how many, because it's actually almost innumerable in terms of the amount of calls I'd have to actually get to the bottom of this. How many hosts who are now running property management companies with over 100 properties started as a cleaner? Shocking, right? You wouldn't think that. Doesn't seem like the natural career progression. But in all fairness, the cleaner kind of sees all the warts. They learn all the aspects of the clean. They figure out all the problems. And over time, they recognize that the money they're making in building their business, in going and acquiring more cleaners, growing their companies and so forth, they might want to invest in a rental property as well. And so begins the process of growth. So for us, we're really here to help growth happen in all ways, shapes, and forms. When it comes to the hosts, it's really, to just sum up a few like bullet points, essentially, think of it as this, right? We're here to improve scheduling. We want to make sure quality control is in place, because if you don't have that, you've got a problem. We're trying to make sure time and cost efficiency are taken into account in the way in which you deal with things. We're considering inventory management in the way in which you're managing your property. We are creating a sense of documentation and accountability, right? And then we're obviously looking for an improved reviews and ratings to come from that, right? It's like kind of like leading indicators and then lagging indicators. Your reviews don't get great overnight because you did some of those key things that I just talked about before, but they will over time. And so, or they remain where they are, hopefully very high, and continue to do so. So the idea is we're here to empower hosts to be able to make that a part of their process. And to the point we're talking about today, to not just be navel gazing and talk about what's on my shirt, is the idea that automation and building process and methodology into your business is the fundamental aspect of that. We play a role in some of that. Other products play a role in other parts of that, but keeping that at the heart of your business without becoming, no pun intended, non-hospitable or losing your hospitality is the concern that happens in business. And I think that's a great thing that Mike and I can probably give examples of how automation goes awry when not used properly. And then conversely, when used well, how it can actually feed a very incredible scale system for your business to be able to take what you might be able to do in a microcosm of 1 or 2 properties and apply that same hospitality to 10, 50, 100 properties. Fair enough?
I like
That's
that.
fair enough.
You guys gave me a mic. This was your fault. So in all fairness, my apologies to all of you for enduring my my diatribes. But Mike, what do you
We're loving it.
do we want to jump in, and Miles, do you mind if I hijack and we just go in the direction of automation and say,
Definitely.
you know,
That's going to be my next question.
then hit us, let's go.
Yes, I mean, what issues does automation solve? Cleaning automation for one. What issues can it solve? But then also, you kind of touched on potential issues that can arise if not done properly. So, how do we make sure that we're not, over automating, perhaps?
Yeah,
Sure.
that's a great question. You hear automation, you hear, a seamless process, but no matter how large or small you are, there's going to be times where you have to intervene as a human, right? So the way that I kind of look at automation, if it's with our product or another product, is get your processes in place where if everything's going correctly, you shouldn't have an issue. But in turn, setting that automation up is going to save you time when, shit hits the fan, right? So if you have, say, let's call it 3 properties, right? And you have your Hospitable account hooked up to Turno or some other scheduling tool, they get there, place is fine, clean, everything works great. Awesome. That saved you time, scheduling on pad and paper, scheduling another way, dealing with calling them up, WhatsApp, asking them, how many paper towels left, right? Now, when your automation's set up and your time isn't wasted scheduling and a major issue pops up, so cleaner gets there, the couch is destroyed, there's a hole in the wall, there's a leak, like you name it, it's probably happened to everyone. And I like to play this fun game too. So if anyone wants to put it in the chat, like leave the most ridiculous item, write down the most ridiculous item that you found in a short-term rental after checkout, because I have seen it all. And
That
I
we're
think
allowed to say on this podcast, in all fairness.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I mean, technically,
Okay.
you can type anything. We just won't read those ones out, so it's fine.
Right. Well, I think, Miles, you're giving Mike way too much credit, but yeah.
It's a fun game to play, and then we can go through it and maybe the winner can get a prize here. I love doing this, like, because you'd be shocked what we find in these homes. So when something ridiculous like that happens, if you've, automated your, process to the point where now you have your undivided attention on that issue. I'm seeing one that is really hilarious right there.
Wow, the
And
last one was brutal.
yeah. So what I'm saying is, those are times where automation doesn't help. Like if I find an automatic weapon in the unit, I don't think, my automated tool is going to be able to intervene. And that's where it becomes, we're in the hospitality business, right? You can't automate everything. And that's why I see some of these like PMs fail where they think that everything's on autopilot and there's, no ability to react. And imagine if, your cleaner didn't spot that out, or you didn't because, you're stretched too thin, and someone comes into that unit, that's reflecting on your product, right? So automation works in my mind to a certain degree, but you always have to be able to throw some human element in there. So like what we can do is set you up, and it should be able to run on autopilot, but there's always going to be issues, and everyone knows that. It's not a perfect world, every guest that comes in.
It's also so from a guy who optimized websites for a living, right, for 15 years and helped some of the biggest companies in the world do that for themselves. There's no like standing on a battleship. Sorry for the political reference, and mission accomplished, right? There is no such thing. Just like in Google, like you rank number one. It's not a guarantee you rank number one tomorrow. Everyone else is gunning for number one too, and therefore you don't necessarily hold that position. So how does that, apply in the hosting world? Well, it's this idea that you can set an automation process in place, but are you taking the feedback into account of what you're learning and putting it in place for the next part of your automation? Let me give you a prime example. Thanks for asking, by the way. So the prime example would be as follows. What do you get the phone call from the guest about that you shouldn't have gotten the phone call about because it's definitely there, or it definitely shouldn't be as hard to deal with, but you didn't or get ahead of the problem in advance, therefore it's now become a problem. If your first communication with your guest is, I don't know where the remote is, where's the pack and play, where's the pass for the pool, okay? It's that either something got misplaced and it wasn't part of a process to ensure that actually was put in a place that's predictable. Case in point, we have all these photo checklists, right? Some of the more advanced and really great hosts I talk to, especially ones that used to be cleaners, will say, I make that part of my checklist. So if I require a picture of the pool pass, I know it was hung on the hook by the kitchen. If they didn't find it, and in my instructions it says pool pass is by the kitchen hook, I know it's there because the last person in the unit hung it on the hook, right? Pack and play always goes in one certain area. If that's a major part of you bringing a family, which might be the persona you target, right, with your rental, and that's going to be important because mom and dad need that pack and play in order to keep that kiddo occupied and safe, then you know what? Like that's a thing for them. You don't want that dialogue to happen because that just sets the tone for the rest of their thought of you as a host and potentially their stay, right? So the more you see those things and learn those things about your properties, you're not going to know that day one. No way. And you're supposed to mess up. Everyone will tell you in business, right? You don't come out the gate 100% successful. In fact, you have to fall on your face, learn from those falls, and then put these in place. That's why a story like mine, hopefully, is relevant and appealing to you all, because I just took someone else's must have had that mistake happen to them and gave it to you as a warning as to what could happen to you. Now you hopefully put that in context and thought, yeah, that's probably the remote in my place or something to that effect that I should think about, and I should do a better job of letting them know, and I should communicate more and all of these things. Now you're setting yourself up for success, right? But you could have just set everything on autopilot and you're all good, right? But no, the autopilot wouldn't have solved that unless you pre-thought it. So even though your process might not include the pool pass, when you learn the pool pass is often misplaced, when you realize that something tends to be missing, when you identify certain aspects, make those changes to your process. Your process needs to get smarter and more optimized, pun intended, to where I started this diatribe, because of that fact. I think Mike had a good example of like one.
Oh
Didn't you,
yeah,
Mike?
we had, yeah, because I use this remote like this, the Roku remote, which many of you probably use. We had it where this guest checked in, they can turn the TV on with the power and the volume's blaring, but they couldn't figure out that the volume controls are on the side, and that's not in the guidebook, that's not in the instructions, and it's just like a 2 a.m. situation that's completely avoidable. But like, I would never think of that. Like, I know how to work this damn thing because I have them all over the house, but someone that's never used it might not realize that the volume's on the side. Like simple things like that, where like I hate to say it, but you don't know who you're getting. Well, you should, but you really need to idiot proof your unit. Because the frustration of not being able to, turn the volume down on a television could lead to a poor review. When all it could have taken is, hey, just FYI, the volume controls are on the side of the remote. And it doesn't have to be the remote. There might be other funny things, in their unit that
Perks,
like,
yeah.
and you can't get to everything, right? Like that's impossible. But like, I would recommend kind of doing a walkthrough and just like really dull your brain down and walk through your whole unit. It's not even relevant to cleaning. But more from an automation standpoint, that saves you, a phone call or a message in the middle of the night, right?
I think that
So-
closely links to kind of the checklist when it comes to for the cleaners though. And Stacey asked a good question in the chat of, how detailed do you need to go on that checklist, whether that's for guests or whether it's for cleaners. Is there overkill? Can you go too detailed?
Yeah, of course there is, because we don't limit you, right? We let you do it. Now, there is overkill in that if you want to work with your cleaner, because your cleaner is the one actually fulfilling the checklist. Like in our case, you can make things mandatory. So if you make 150 mandatory point that actually requires photos on every single thing,
I'm not going to want to
be overkilling it. Could you be overkilling it? Sure, you could. Now, I know some hosts that do that, and they have the most insane. People's reviews of their place are, I thought I was the first guest. Never seen a place like this. Now, she also was a cleaner who started her business with a tiny house and a barn, and then she expanded, and now she manages something like 70 different properties. But her maniacal aspect towards the growth of her business was a fundamental piece of it. She has cleaners on staff. She pays them well above average rate, right? And she tells them, because I'm paying you these rates, I have these expectations. When I say a pillow needs to look like this, the pillow needs to look like that. Take the photo of the pillow and make sure it's that way. We actually have one person who literally has an entire employee who does nothing but double check all these things, because that's the extent they want to get with quality. Now, that's polar end of the spectrum in certain ways, and I don't mean that in a negative way. There's other people who don't want to go through that and don't even set up a checklist. Do I think that's smart? Probably not. Do you have to go to this extreme in order to have good reviews? No, because plenty of you out here probably don't have that in place and you get good reviews. So there is a variable there, right, in which you can deploy any technology to an nth degree. Just be careful that you're not spending too much of your cleaner's time focused on whether or not they're fulfilling the checklist or getting to the next property, right? But I do have, for example, I'll take that even further. I have one host, also happened to be a former cleaner, different one. She actually, believe it or not, with the units they manage, they go in when they get the unit and they will clock how long it takes to do all the bedding in the place, because every machine is different. So if you want to hit all these houses within a time period and you have your staff going from house to house to house, you better know that house number 3 has a crap dryer. And it's going to take a heck of a lot longer, maybe 2 cycles to go through it. And you might want to get in touch with that owner and say, hey, you know what? If we don't replace either the dryer or the coil, I'm going to have to like move you to the last list here in terms of like prioritization, because it's messing up the entire business, right? So these are things that if you really want to get into the automation and the process and the methodology, there are people that get, dare I say, maniacal with it. You don't have to. There's a happy medium, but I think you should look at the place effectively per Mike's case. Take someone from your persona, have them stay in your place. Maybe they're a friend of yours, someone you know. Have them stay in your place for free 1 or 2 nights. But really ask them to document everything that happened. And tell them, I need to know whether or not you couldn't turn on the TV. I need to know whether or not you couldn't find X. I need what would you have thought if you were the pickiest person you know? How would you have reviewed my place? Give me the worst review you can based on the experience you had, right? Get that information back, then start using it against your system.
I like it. I like it. Good way to test it out for sure. Get friends to go and like say you got to push them for the detail though. Like you can't just be enjoying the stay and have fun.
Coming for just a free wild weekend and like then they're like, hey man, it was great. Like, sorry, that doesn't do it for me. Like I actually was giving you this place in order to like get real detail. So make sure whoever you do that with actually knows. But you all know someone like that. I mean, if I wanted to see how technology friendly my place was, no offense, mom. I would put her in the place, have her check it out. She would definitely tell me a whole bunch. I couldn't connect to the Wi-Fi. I couldn't do this. I couldn't do that. And then I'd have to play the game of, okay, was that because it was my mom who isn't great at those things, and is my mom part of my target persona? If she's not, then that's cool. Guys like Mike who know that the things on the left-hand side of the remote, is it the left, the right? If he's my target audience, then I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, for sure. So again, you kind of nicely segued into my next question there around, you're kind of talking about finding cleaners and having issue finding cleaners. That's obviously a challenge for a lot of people. What are some kind of recommendations around that? Obviously, there's going to be a bit of a soft sell of Turno in there, but generally, what are recommendations there for kind of finding the right people, not just any person, I guess?
Yeah, I can kind of jump into this. So I don't even need to soft sell Turno. You don't have to use Turno, right? But what I would recommend is like if you're, a smaller operator and you have 1 or 2 cleaners that are bulletproof, things happen, right? Like you never know. Like every day it's like, a car accident, traffic ticket, like emergencies happen, people get sick. You could have the best cleaner. Like I actually have a neighbor here in Florida that has 2 properties and he swore by his cleaner, like, she's the best. I don't need your stupid, whatever app, like iSchedule, whatever. I'm like, great, fine. That's awesome. But I remember it was like 10 a.m. and this cleaner had an emergency and he was kind of up, the creek here, right? So what I would recommend is it doesn't have to be through Turno, but we built a platform around this, is to get backup cleaners in place. If you did a search on our marketplace, depending on where you are, you're going to get a ton of bids. You can message them and say, hey, look, I have a really great cleaner. I'm going to continue using them. You have great reviews on the platform. Add them to your team. Add 5 of them to your team, 10. Have a very stringent checklist in place because your cleaner knows the place. They know where to get in. It's like, just autopilot for them to clean it. Now, a new person probably isn't going to know the property that well. So if it's their first time getting there, they're only going to be able to be as good as what you give them, right? So if they show up with a checklist that's like make the bed, clean the kitchen, and make sure the toilet's clean, like they might do a good job, but you can't really rely on them doing a good job. And then when you come to us and say the cleaner did a crappy job, they didn't do this, this, and this, but you didn't instruct them to do that. It's that, and that's kind of where a lot of the issues come from. When people might use their first cleaner, like the cleaner doesn't know. They don't know that property. They're cleaning, a wide variety. Like we're not operating Hilton hotel rooms. Like everyone's property is different. Like there's no, 2 that are going to be the same, even if they're in the same freaking building, right? So what I would say is, if it's through Turno or not through Turno, I would get backups in place. Which the good thing about our platform is when you do a bid, you can accept a bid and add them to your team. It doesn't bind you, to using them as a cleaner. It's not like you have to have them clean next Tuesday. You can add, and a lot of our cleaners are happy to do that because say you add 10 backups, right? And you're in a bind, it's 8 a.m., you have a check-in at 3, you can push that out to all 10 of them. And odds are 1 of them or 2 of them or 3 of them is going to have the availability and they're going to love to make an extra $100, right? Like, whereas if you're panicking that morning, putting the search out, chatting with these people, that's wasted time on your end. You're going to be panicking. Odds are you might be getting in the car and going to that place yourself. Like I guarantee you, everyone on this call.
It's been done though. I do want to say, like, I know of someone who works at a at a company in our space. She was a guest on our podcast as well, which is coming out soon, so I'll plug it, Rock STR. And she specifically has like 14 locations in Tahoe, and her cleaner, as you said, got into a car accident. And you know what? She went on our marketplace, and this is a plug. She did a search and she found someone within 10 minutes, and she was lucky enough that they had availability and it worked, right? But to Mike's point, that's the kind of premonition and kind of like learning that things go wrong, right? And as much as you can prep for the go wrong, you can't predict the asteroid, but you can predict the rain. Right. And so I think that's kind of the point there. And I really like the idea also in thinking about, much like no two properties are the same, keep in mind that cleaners aren't either. So when you're out there looking for a cleaner, cleaners aren't cleaners. There are specifically short-term rental, vacation rental cleaners. How do they differ from a traditional cleaner? I think that's a point that often gets missed. And again, I'm talking about cleaning. This is not, like I said, the sexiest thing in the world, but you do need to understand the nuance. The nuance is that a traditional residential cleaner has a schedule. They follow said schedule, and they know on Tuesday they're at your house between these hours and these hours, and they can take as long as they need to. Because you know what? If they can't make that day, it's okay too. They'll just switch it with the owner for the next day. Oh my God, in case that person had a dinner party that night, well, that's a real problem. Otherwise, 9 times out of 10, that person is fine with having switched that. In a vacation rental situation, not at all. I still have that guest coming no matter what, whether you can make it or you can't make it. So I need to have a plan no matter what happens. The vacation rental cleaners are flexible in their hours and in the way in which they approach things. They also are going to charge a different rate than an hourly rate you might get from someone who is a traditional home cleaner. And that is different. They also know the major trafficked areas within a space that they should be hitting. They also know that they're trying to do it as efficiently as possible, as quickly as possible, because for them, it's about the turnover. They want to do your turnover, do it really well with quality, because they know you're going to judge them differently than I think, I might in my own house, right? It might not bother me if there was a hair or something still left on the sink, but you know what? To a guest, it's going to make a difference. So the quality there, I'm not asking my housekeeper to use an app and checklist and actually show me photos of the work they've done, right? Even if I wasn't home, but I would do that if I was a host of a property, right? And that's a major difference you need to consider when dealing with your vacation rental cleaner. You also have to remember that a vacation rental cleaner is not a property manager. Some people will treat them as such, but if so, negotiate that as part of what they're doing. Set the expectations properly, because if not, they're not going to price you correctly, and they're going to come back and want to change the price later, and that's going to affect your predictability, right? Or vice versa. They're going to get really frustrated, and if they're not the greatest kind of like whatever, they're in high demand, they're going to go off to the next job and say, you know what, this is too much trouble for me. So make sure that you're really being equitable in what you provide. Remember, this is a core part of your business, right? Therefore, and if it falls down, it's a real, it affects your ability to get new bookings. So like, make sure that this is not something that, again, as I thought, cleaning, that can't be that important. Make sure that's not your thought, because I've learned fairly quickly, didn't take me a year, I promise, to be able to know enough to say the things I've said today with confidence. But Mike still thinks I'm full of it, so it's okay.
Brilliant. So I don't ask you too many more questions because it looks like the audience has got a decent amount. But maybe you can just kind of, for those that kind of don't really know Turno too much, maybe don't even know Hospitable too much, maybe you can kind of just give a quick overview of the functionality that Turno provides, and specifically what integration benefits there are for kind of using Hospitable and Turno together.
Yeah, so from a automation standpoint, I'm assuming a lot of people on here are Hospitable users. If not, I'll kind of explain. In the short-term rental world, you have, the OTAs where your bookings are coming from. So, the Airbnbs, Verbos, Booking.coms. Then you have property management softwares and channel managers. So Hospitable, your PMS, your channel manager, they're your like core hub, right? And then from there, there's a lot of other tools that you can integrate. Hospitable has a ton of integrations. I'm sure some of you guys are using noise monitoring. You're using a pricing tool. You name it, it's probably connected, right? And we all work with Hospitable via API connection. So what's going to happen is when you link Hospitable with Turno, all of your booking data is going to pull in instantaneously. So on the calendar that's going to appear, you're going to have, the length of stay, that guest name, if there's 2 adults and 2 children, if there's a pet, that's all going to flow in, which is great information for your cleaners. Maybe you do a little welcome card that has, hey, Susan, thanks for booking. Like if you need anything, like, we'll be of help, like whatever you're going to want to put out there. So that just kind of automates that process. From there, Turno is going to automatically create a cleaning project associated to a booking. So booking comes in, at the end of that, a project's going to be created. From there, you can set up a primary cleaner, backup cleaners. You can auto assign cleaners. You can manually assign cleaners. All that functionality is up to you in your process. Some people like to just throw it out to everyone on their team, and whoever takes it, takes it. Some people like, to have one cleaner cleaning one specific property. So that job's going to push to them. And if they can't make it, they say no, and it'll push to your backup cleaner. So we can kind of automate that process. From there, obviously we have our checklist, photos, and then it gets fun. Like if you want to get even further, we also have open API. So you can push that back into, any sort of system that you might use. So like if you're, using like a QuickBooks, we don't integrate with QuickBooks, but you can actually get, if you're crazy, we have people that have it automated where all the financials push back, inventory pushes back, problems get reported via API. I have customers that have set it up where they don't have to log into Turno because they're in their PMS. Turno's automatic, then API pushes back to their owner's portal. Like you can get very creative and customizable, and we are very entrepreneurial in that sense where we know everyone's business is different, so we give you the tools and the ability to play around with that. And Hospitable does too, to some degree. Like most of the people that have it automated like that are actually Hospitable customers. But it's kind of up to you to get creative because everyone's process is different. Like we could build a endpoint that does one thing, but it's not going to work for every host. So it's kind of up to you guys to take it from there. And we'd also have to charge a lot more money than free if we wanted to get even more crazy. But yeah, so that's kind of how it works from a automation standpoint and connectivity standpoint. We have some new features coming out because I'm sure you're going to ask me that next. And I saw a question in the Q&A, and I'm assuming that's related to like an inspector or a secondary kind of cleaner coming through. That functionality is coming out. Right now, we do have a functionality where an inspector could come in, but it's very basic. It's a pass-fail situation. But now what's going to happen is if you choose that option, it's going to let you add an inspector or an additional cleaner to come through after, just to verify that the property is in tip-top shape, take pictures, report other issues, or have that second person in place. So I hope that answers that question on features coming out. And that's what's tough too, is it's like you look at your business one way, and we're running a business where we have tens of thousands of hosts on the platform, and everyone's running it differently. So when we build features, it's really difficult because that feature that one person wants is probably not the same feature that another person wants. And we try to be as crowdfunded as possible. Like, so if there's ideas that you guys have, like drop them in the chat. I don't know if anyone's using us right now, but we get it. We're not a huge company. We're growing. But there's always something that people want. Like one thing that'll come up, I'm sure someone will ask about videos. Like, yes, we get it. Videos are very important. Photos only tell, one specific part of information, one part of the story. But what I think people fail to realize is if we have, 100,000 cleans going on and every single one of them took a video, storing those is very, very expensive. Like we have the tech to do it. We're just waiting for a competitor to green light it, then maybe we will, right? It's just it's an expensive part. Yeah.
Everyone's tuning into this.
That wasn't a red phone moment of like,
no.
Yeah.
It's the Cold War. It's the Cold War on videos, right? Because we know how much storage is. Like you have your iPhone, you can only store so much on the phone, and Apple's banging you for cloud storage. Think about, millions of videos in, AWS. It's expensive. Like, we'd love to do it. It's just, is it scalable? And I think that's kind of the next thing that's going to be, over the next year. It's like kind of a space race to, see who does that.
I think it's important to point out, just as someone who's built software for like almost 2 decades, you need to think about elasticity in what you build to be as malleable as possible. But if it's liquid, you can't structure anything out of it. So it becomes too amorphous, and then there's no predictability to it. So think about that in context of being a host. If all of a sudden you wanted to offer every single potential experience to every particular persona that might use your home, it would be untenable. You wouldn't be able to do it. You would not be able to think about every single experience for every single type of every single person who might stay at your home. You would lose the effectiveness of curating an experience that actually works for the guest, right? You'd be trying to fit everyone, but you wouldn't necessarily fit anyone incredibly well. And so therefore, when we make bets, we make them based on, like Mike said, based on the knowledge we're getting back from our customer base. And by the way, we have, 30 some odd, customer service folks 24/7 going, like picking up whatever's coming in through our intercom, and people are sharing with us good, bad, and in between things they're running into. You build stuff, things are going to happen, right? Just like hosting, you do stuff, things are going to happen. But we learn, we pick them up, and we continue and improve upon them. So that's much like you should be doing the same thing with your processes and your methodologies in your homes. We try to do that as effectively as we can as an organization, in the way in which we build product. But like Mike said, we love the feedback. The feedback helps drive us. It's not who spends the most that equates to, the value. It's really more, are we seeing this consistently? Is this a trend? Do we believe this will have a larger impact? How can that potentially tie into a future feature or functionality and get us closer to the ability to do something else for the host in the way in which they, service? So these are all things that go into, and I can't tell you how many meetings I sit in every day, every week, talking about these things, because that's our passion, right? Yours is hospitality, and ours is growth, your growth, our growth, and cleaners growth.
Nice. So, speaking about getting feedback from hosts, let's probably move into some Q&A now from the audience.
Cool.
There's definitely some feature suggestions in there and questions on existing features. We'll try and fly through as many as we can in the next 15 minutes. Shorter answers, guys, on these ones. I think we might have to keep it short and sweet.
That means Stephan, shut up. Okay, Mike, you got it.
But I'm asking politely. It's okay. So, first off, double barrel question, because these kind of fit nicely together, around pricing. So one, Turno pricing, how much does it cost to use Turno, and kind of the different pricing related to that. And then two, there's kind of asking, and I know this is going to change by market, but a ballpark average rate for vacation rental cleaners. And I know it's a question you probably want to avoid answering, but I'm going to give it to you.
There's no avoiding it. It's just not, there's just like really no answer. Like, ask the guy, ask someone who has to do a turnover the week Taylor Swift is playing in Nashville. Like, ask them what they paid. Like, there's just so many considerations to take into account. I don't know, Mike, you're better at dealing with those kinds of things than I am.
It's so difficult. Let's just kind of dive into pricing, because that's what everyone jumps on these to kind of accomplish. The answer is it's going to differ by market, by street almost. Like, I could tell you, in Miami, the cleaning price varies by, block, right? It has to do with parking availability, like, traffic, commuting, how competitive the market is. What we find is, it's kind of, a supply and demand thing. There are more hosts than there are great cleaners right now in the space that are, in the short-term rental market, in certain places. So, a 2-bedroom in Destin is going to be 3 times the cost of, a 2-bedroom in Dallas, right? So there's no difference to the property, but it's just about the market. And what's kind of amazing is, the cleaners, just like the host in a market, kind of define the pricing. Like, you can use Price Labs, you can use Wheelhouse, and kind of see what's going on in the market to price your property. And in the same kind of capacity, that's what cleaners are doing too. What we do is give cleaners a range and where projects are going. But there's so many variables, right? Does the cleaner have to do the linens? Does the cleaner have to pay for parking? Does the cleaner do you provide cleaning supplies that maybe you have eco-friendly cleaning supplies that cleaner isn't used to? I mean, there's a ton of variation. The best way.
Mike, how about square footage? Like, that's something we had to put in because
Yeah.
cleaners were like, two bedrooms is not 2 bedrooms, right? Like, it's like some places different.
I have a friend that has a short-term rental that's a 2-bedroom, but it's 4,800 square feet. Like, my 2-bedroom is 900 square feet, right? So square footage is a big problem. It's a 2-bedroom, but there's a massive living space and pool and a pool table. Like, it's wildly different. So depending on square footage, size, accessibility, the market, demand, if you can guarantee a cleaner, say 10 cleans, a month with your portfolio, then yeah, you can negotiate with them and drive the price down. But if it's a one-off situation, you might be paying a bit more, right? So that's the best way to answer it. I think the most telling thing to do is if you have a Turno account, just do a search in your area. You're going to get bids back. You can chat with these cleaners. You will not get charged until a cleaning is completed to your satisfaction. So that's kind of the best way, I would say, going about really diving into what that price is going to be. The other thing to factor in is the way that our platform works is very similar to Airbnb in the sense that other hosts are reviewing cleaners. So if someone comes out and does a bad job, gets a 1-star review, they're going to rank lower. They're going to know their rating. You might get them a little cheaper, but in the back of your head, they've had, an instance where they had a bad clean. And the ecosystem of our marketplace kind of weeds those bad cleaners out. And that's what makes our product a little special, is a lot of people rely on this. This is their full-time job. They go in and they bite off more than they can chew. They're opening themselves up to a bad review, which is in turn going to really, really affect their business, which we don't like, but it has to be done because, at the end of it, we're providing a hospitality product to a consumer, and, we're sorry, but, don't guarantee that you can do work that you don't have the time or resources to do. Right.
Yeah. And also, sorry, but this is an important point. Set your expectation properly as to what you're actually looking for. Like I said before, if you don't, you can get a price from anyone. That price doesn't mean it's that price once you change the goalposts of what you're actually asking for. So be very clear and direct in what you actually want. If you do have a checklist that's 150 points, don't let them find out about it when they've signed up for the clean. Guaranteed that's not going to work well for you in acquiring a cleaner more than once. So ensure that you actually are setting yourself up for success by creating a business relationship, because that's what that is. So you're setting up a partnership for as long or as little as you want. But if you want it to have any form of longevity, you should be upfront and honest about if there isn't parking, for them to take that into account. You want the bid they give you to be as accurate and reflective of what they're expecting so that they feel good walking away from it and you get the quality you're looking for. That's the key. And so that variable also is not something anyone can sit here and tell you.
Makes sense. Yeah. So the answer is there is no answer, as we kind of expected.
Go find out. Actually.
It's a good way to find out.
Yeah, some tips, honestly, in your specific case, and you can get the answers you're looking for.
Yeah, 100%. So, Mike, part of your answer was kind of, go and use Turno, do a search in your area. So, part of the question was, what's the cost of using Turno? So, what does a subscription cost? And we know Hospitable customers can get that for free, but what does a subscription cost? And then, the cost of using the platform. So I know there's kind of payment.
So I'll just kind of run. I'll just kind of run through the model real quick. If you're with Hospitable, there's no subscription fee. If you have one property, there's no subscription fee, no matter what. If you're linked up to another PMS or through the OTAs directly. When you get to 2 properties, we charge a subscription fee of $6 a month per property, only if you have cleaners associated with those properties that are non-marketplace cleaners. So people that you've invited to the platform. Now, the way that we define that is we can't control that relationship. It's your relationship. You can do whatever you want with them. You can pay them off the platform. That's what most people do. You can pay them through the platform. So I'm talking about someone that you bring in. You can set them up on auto pay. You can pay them with ACH or with a credit card. With ACH, there's a 1.5% fee when paying your own people. And I saw a question that, it could take up to 7 days to process with that ACH. Yes, we're not Venmo. We try our best. They're going to get that payment. The other thing to remember when you're using us is that 1.5% covers, us pushing out the tax documentation to the cleaners. So if you're paying them cash or you're Venmoing them, you're going to have to provide them a 1099 at the end of the year. Whereas if you put them on auto pay, we're going to provide that to the cleaner directly. Now, when we jump into marketplace, and you're strictly using marketplace, like you have your own cleaner, you don't want to automate them, and you want to just use marketplace here and there, there's no subscription fee no matter how many properties you have on, but there is a 5% service fee. And if you're using ACH, it's at that 5%. Now, if you wanted to pay with a credit card, that jumps up to 8%. We actually just changed our pricing. It's something we had to do. Everyone knows that, times are different. When we started this, in 2017, we've had the same pricing for 6 years now, 5% on each clean in the marketplace. And it was just time that we hate that we have to do that, but you still can retain that 5% if you use ACH, which is amazing that we were able to pull that off. I was scared that we weren't going to be able to, but we still have that for our hosts using the marketplace. So Perfect. Just to explain, 5% or 8% if you're using a credit card on the marketplace, 1.5% or 3.9% if you're paying your own people through the platform. And again, you don't have to pay your own people through the platform. So if you're using Hospitable, you have 30 properties, you want to schedule your own people and they're on payroll, there's no cost. We kind of biting the bullet and hoping you use a couple marketplace cleaners so we can make a little money. We got to keep the lights on. But that's kind of the transparent part of the deal here.
Was that a dig at me, transparent, because I'm so pasty white here? And
you're something. I mean, I got a washing machine. I'm in the laundry room, so not much better.
All good. It's all good. Cool. Thanks for that overview, Mike. Perfect. And then I'm hoping you guys might be able to run a minute or two longer, but
yeah, sure.
Good, because we're close to the end and quite a few to get through, but we'll get through as many as we can with a little overtime. So next. Yeah, exactly. So next question around languages. So someone came with a specific use case if they have a cleaner that speaks Portuguese. If they download the app and there's a cleaning checklist on there let's say it's in English, does that automatically get translated to Portuguese if they're accessing it via Portuguese settings on their phone?
No, the checklists are the only thing that is not going to translate automatically. Typically what I do, same use case with Spanish, is you're going to take that checklist and then go into Google Translate. You're going to have to do it once. It's a pain. And then just Google Translate that from English and just have English and then under it Portuguese or Spanish. And then, the cleaner, everything else in the app is going to translate besides the checklist. We're looking at doing that. It's just we should have built checklists differently 6 years ago. It would have been a lot easier, but
I don't think we didn't have a premonition that we'd be doing them in Italian, German, French, Portuguese, Spanish, and English, which is actually what our product is created in, and all the features and facets of it are in those languages, as is the website. That was fun trying to change from Turnover B&B to Turno. But the point is it's available, and that's why we built it to be as friendly as we can be. But I think it's a good point about the checklist. We definitely want to think about how to do that. But I think Mike's point about how you can do it once, twice, set it up and move forward is a good one.
Okay, that's good.
You're going to have to write it in English anyways. So, maybe the extra 10,
copy and paste across the copy. Yeah, it shouldn't be too long. Yeah,
because the checklists are dynamic. and someone will probably ask this too, they're dynamic. So each checklist item has a checkbox, a picture. So you can't just take a checklist from a Google Sheet or Microsoft, Word and put it in there, because the system's not going to identify, where those bullet points are. So we have a lot of checklists that you can, use from thousands from other hosts. You can use as templates. If you have your own, what I would advise doing is just a quick Google Translate, just to get your system in place there.
Yeah, a little upfront time for saving a lot of long-term pain, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. Good. And then around kind of, languages and building the platform for different languages, what is the availability of Turno as a tool? And then I guess the marketplace as well, like what countries are you currently in? I know you're trying to grow that marketplace further, where you're trying to grow more. Specifically, there was a question around Norway, but I know that that's going to be a question is, give us the full, spiel on exactly where you are based right now.
Yeah, so we're in, as we said, 6 languages. We operate globally, anywhere that you can, kind of access Turno.com. If you're in, Russia or North Korea, we're banned, but hopefully there's no one on here from there. Norway, we do have customers, quite a few actually, and you can run the app there, no problem. Now, what we can't guarantee is marketplace cleaners in Oslo. We're not very strong in certain markets. I can tell you where we are strong: US, Canada, Australia, UK, France, little bit in Germany, major cities, kind of across Europe. There's certain, to be totally honest, the US is a lot easier to scale in than it is in Europe, because we're one country, whereas Europe, you have all these countries with people speaking different languages that are 40 miles away from each other, different tax laws. So that's where we are currently trying to expand. We're doing a very good job, I think, but it's kind of this chicken and the egg thing where I can go and get a bunch of hosts onboarded in let's say in Madrid, but then I need to have cleaners at the same time. So if I have a bunch of hosts doing searches and nothing's, coming up, they're going to get frustrated. Vice versa. If we go and get a bunch of cleaners onboarded in Madrid, we need to give them volume, or else they're going to be like, this is a scam. There's no work. I just wasted my time. So building the marketplace, admittedly, is challenging. We've done it in a lot of places before, but it requires a lot of effort, marketing resources. So yeah, there is European expansion coming. We're pretty well situated in the UK right now. That was kind of our first conquest, a little easier with the language not being a barrier. We have 2 employees in France right now, kind of working on that growth. And we just have another one in Spain now that's kind of growing that market. So, giving it time. But if you want to use the market,
we approach it from a quantitative and qualitative perspective. So we're not looking to get every Joe Schmo in our system as a marketplace cleaner. That would not actually help our brand. That would actually not help your quality. So we're growing, I'd say, in a measured fashion based on what we're trying to accomplish. It is what keeps me up at night, trying to make sure the seesaw is as balanced as it can be in as many locations as we try to. But I'd say, just because you do a query, let's say this month in Oslo, and you're not coming up with what you want, doesn't mean that next month you might not find that. So depending on where we're seeing enclaves of people, we do have a pretty, I'm not going to lie, pretty arduous process for cleaners to get approved on purpose. We're not looking for the get rich quick, fly by night, never cleaned a place. You got to give us references. It's this process, right? And it's done purposefully, so we can get you the quality of person that you deserve, and can count on us, and we can associate our name at least in making that connection between you and that individual.
Okay, cool. So there's kind of sort of connected question from Diego around kind of hearing about, how can people on this webinar hear about, future product updates, when you're kind of doing upgrades, but then maybe also, you talked about contributing feature ideas. where can people go to kind of contribute those as well? Obviously, everyone feel free to drop them in the chat, but longer term solution for people that aren't joining live.
We'll just be having this every week with you guys, and so it'll be great.
Okay.
So if you don't mind being our product guinea pigs, and just come here every, Thursday, and we should be good. No, by all means, we actually have a newsletter that we're starting coming out very shortly. So in essence, if now you want to be signed up for that, feel free, and I'm probably opening myself up to a world of pain. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. Drop in your email address to me and so forth. I'll be more than happy to put you on the lists. We'll be putting out product updates, some of the tips and tricks I just pointed out, for example, about better hosting, better hospitality. We understand that, it's not all about selling. If you're not helping people, you're kind of just selling stuff, and we're not in the business of just selling stuff. We think that we can actually grow with our audiences. So we're looking, and I know that sounds very nice, especially coming from a CMO, but in reality, we really do want to create a system where we can provide you valuable data. You can provide us valuable data, and both things can happen at once. So Stephan, Stephan Bajaio, put me into Google, you'll find all about me, and go on LinkedIn, you'll find me as well. Reach out there, and we will be able to, capture emails, provide you with data. And over time, we'll be providing places you can give feedback. Now, right now, obviously, if you're in the product, by all means, there's an intercom bubble. Or if you're looking at the product and you have questions, someone asked whether or not we have real people. If it's robots, it's not robots. We actually have like 30 some odd people that do nothing but customer service. They are in our product, and we run a 24/7 ship because we're trying to service and solve for the globe. So we've done a really good job on that front. I think our customer service is a really important and shining piece of it. Go test them out. They're going to hate me for saying that, but go test them out. You'll see their response rate is fast, and they have good. You want to give product feedback, by all means, put it there. It goes into a Slack channel I'm watching, and everyone else is as well.
Yeah, and then typically what we do with people that have great ideas, that are active users, our product team, they're amazing. We've got an amazing team. What they'll typically do is kind of reach out and maybe schedule a call with you guys, kind of go through some of your pain points, because their job is designing the product. And admittedly, they're product designers. They've never managed a short-term rental. And I can say this, right? They don't know what the next feature should be. You guys do. Like, you're in the mud, right? So what we've been doing is kind of hosting calls bi-weekly with active users that are in the mud, that really know what's going on. So I would advise, drop it into that. We can add you guys, but we really want to support people that are kind of on the product, that are lifers, as we say, because there's ideas that come in, and they might not be scalable for other users, but we might get something that's like, wow, everyone could use that. And this kind of goes into another question I saw, where adding a second person on the calendar, that was an issue that we had. We built it when this was built, in 2017. A lot of Airbnbs were, just 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom. We never thought there'd be a second cleaner, a third cleaner, and that's an issue that's coming out soon, hopefully sooner than later. You know how launches go, right? But we have identified that that's a major problem. We had workarounds where you could kind of just copy and paste a secondary calendar in there that would generate, 2 cleaners. But then it gets nasty when, you don't need it for that particular time, because there's a 2-day gap, and that cleaner can take 5 hours rather than 3. So there's a lot that kind of goes into making it a fine-tuned, automated process, right? We're still learning. Hospitable's still learning. Pierre's going to kill me for saying that. But that's the
we'll cut that out. Don't worry, we'll cut it out.
We'll cut it out from YouTube. All right. Any other questions? I want to get to the fun stuff people have left. And what we'll do is we'll send, you can pick if you want a hat or a shirt, or maybe we could splurge on both, whoever the winner is.
Yeah, we could do that if you want. Yeah. I mean, you guys can see, you guys can see the Q&A as well. What looks fun. Because we can also, so the ones we don't get to, we can make sure we kind of write out the answers and include them in the follow-up email and in YouTube, because I know we're not going to get to everyone's questions today.
I'm just trying to look to see if there's any that I can answer. We
On the whim,
we store
quickly.
photos forever. I wish we didn't, but now we do. That was a question that just came in here. What else?
In all fairness, they do take up a lot less space than videos, but yeah.
Gina, yes, you can dump them. Shoot me an email. It's mike@turno.com. Let's see.
Easy enough.
Let's see. Oh, inventory. Yeah, that's a really good question, Stacy from Rhode Island.
Yeah, that is a good question, actually.
I'm from Rhode Island too, so shout out there. I'd love to know where you are, and if you get any good cleaners there. So that is a good question. It's kind of whatever you'd like. Consumables, right?
Let's repeat the question. Not everyone knows, and they're reading.
Oh yeah, they're not popping up. What types of
so
things do you recommend tracking on inventory? That is a great question, and this is where it gets real fun. So I would say your, consumables are very important. So your toilet paper, your bath towels. My parents live in Portsmouth, so that's pretty fun. Same town. So, and shout out to CVS in Woonsocket. But inventory, toilet paper, paper towels, soaps, gels. Now where it gets cool is a lot of people, it'll be like, is the remote there in inventory? If it's a no, you're going to get an instant notification that something's bad. I have people that literally are like, is the coffee maker still there? People think that everything's free sometimes when they go to a short-term rental. I'm sorry, the Apple TV is not yours to keep. Things like that you might want to throw in there. Kind of whatever you'd like. I have people that have, 5 items in there and people that have 40, right? It's totally up to you.
Great point. Actually, that just made me remember for wear and tear items also, like within the property that tend to have the most usage, that may not be a cleaning issue, but that may be something you want the cleaner to check and to put on the checklist. So you may want to make sure the chair doesn't wobble. You may want to make sure that, the couch doesn't, isn't sagging to the point in which. So certain items are going to have wear and tear over time. There is life value to a home in the process, and the amount of, much like a rental car, it works well, but then you get enough drivers through it and it's acting a little funny. You're going to have a whole bunch of that stuff with your furniture and other aspects within your home. Making that a point of kind of checking as in part of the clean can definitely be something that helps as well. It's not inventory, but there's that. There's also, if you have multiple properties within a certain distance of one another, you may want to consider replaceables that would make it easier to solve a problem immediately. So for example, I know a property management company that has, about 35 homes really close to one another. They definitely have an extra microwave. They definitely have an extra bed set. They definitely have extra linens. They have a whole bunch of stuff. It may not be for one specific home, but they know they have it and they have it at their availability, so they can jump on that problem and take care of it fairly instantaneously. You can't predict that someone's going to destroy the bed frame, but if you happen to have another bed frame around, it sure does solve a lot of problems.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. So I think we should probably call time on that, guys.
Yeah.
There are a couple more questions left, but I feel like they're very, support related, and maybe go and check out Turno's support. They can probably help you with those account specific questions. So any final?
By the way, we splurged on the website, so might as well call it out as a domain, right?
Wait, yeah. There we go. Not Turnover B&B. Turno.com.
Yeah. No. Awesome. And I think the winner of the craziest thing, Stephan, you can see in here what we're gonna have to decide. People love drugs, apparently. There's things I can't say on YouTube. I just don't know how you
get rid of these things. That's the other thing. I'm like, it's not just that it was left; it's that now I have to deal with it, and I don't know where it goes. I think that Linda's gonna be the the winner here. That's one.
I think so.
I'd love to hear that story. So Linda, you are the winner.
Hit me up on LinkedIn, Linda.
Yeah, no, and we'll get you a hat and a t-shirt.
Nice.
But don't wear it if you're holding what you found.
There. Well,
right.
Thank you very much, guys. This has been great. A fantastic session. Thank you everyone for joining. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have. Any final words, sorry, before we go?
Yeah, and we're both resources. We're busy, but we like to get back to everyone. So hit us up on LinkedIn. You can email me. LinkedIn's a little better. I'd say I'm still trying to catch up on emails. Same goes with Stephan. He's very active on
my head of
LinkedIn.
social would kill me if I didn't say we're the Turno app or Turno app on almost every single platform out there. Trust me, we had to grab all those handles when we switched. It was a whole process. So might as well follow us, like us, share us, do all that good stuff, and suggest things you'd like to hear about. I know, like I said, it won't always be how to pick the best cleaner, but it could be a lot of things that we cross paths with hosts and can give you advice along the way. We're learning just like you are. We're here to help you grow, and we're excited for that growth, both for ourselves and for you. So hit us up, and happy to be a resource, as Mike said.
Perfect. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you so much, Miles.
Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Cheers.
guys.
Have a good day.
You too. See you later, everyone.